இப்போதைக்கு இருக்குதான் ஒரு ஆடியன்ஸை பேஸ் பண்றது அவங்க பேசுறது சும்மா யூடியூப் லிங்க் எல்லாரும் ஏன் நீங்க நான் உட்காந்து எனக்கு என்ன பாத்தீங்கன்னா ஆடியன்ஸ் வீடியோஸ் ஓகே ஆஃப் இப்போ ஆஃப் பண்ணி வச்சுக்கோ அவங்க
இதுங்க கூகுள்ல காட்டுது ஆமா
Hello. Hello.
Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am. Good morning, ma'am.
Good morning, everyone.
A very good morning to one and all present here. On behalf of the Department of Advanced Biology and Biotechnology, Women's Christian College, it is my pleasure to welcome you to the day 2 of the International Symposium on Wetlands Ecological Significance, Threats, and Conservation Strategies. After an enriching first day of discussions and deliberations, we begin today's first session with renewed enthusiasm and curiosity. This session aims to deepen our understanding of wetlands as dynamic ecosystems, highlighting their ecological function, emerging challenges, and innovative conservation approaches. We are honored to have distinguished experts and researchers who will be sharing their valuable insights and experiences with us. I request all participants to kindly remain attentive and actively engage in the session. Let us begin the first session of the day 2 with an open mind and a spirit of learning. This session will focus on biodiversity of ephemeral wetlands on Sara habitats in the northern Western Ghats. It will highlight the ecological significance of these seasonally occurring wetlands, the biodiversity they support, and the key conservation challenges, emphasizing the need to safeguard these fragile ecosystems for long-term sustainability. Our first speaker for this segment is Dr. Aparna Bhatkar, coordinator of the IUCN Species Survival Commission, Red List Authority, and a member of the Western Ghats Plant Specialist Group, whose work has made significant contribution to biodiversity conservation and ecosystem-based management approaches. To formally introduce our esteemed resource person, it is my privilege to invite Dr. Julia Harriet Sumati, Assistant Professor, Department of Advanced Biology and Biotechnology, to kindly present their introduction of our first speaker.
Thank you, Bhavna. It is my pleasure and delight to introduce the first online speaker of day 2 of the International Symposium on Wetlands, Ecological Significance, Threats, and Conservation Strategies. To start off with, Aparna has a doctorate in vegetation ecology and has taught various interdisciplinary subjects related to environment and society interactions at the postgraduate level. She is the coordinator for the Red List Authority of the International Union for Conservation of Nature Species Survival Commission, Western Ghats Plant Specialist Group. This includes facilitating science-based conservation projects involving communities in conservation and networking for policy and research. Her work so far has focused on the study and conservation of lesser-known habitats, especially rock plateaus of Western Ghats. She has been a member of the Maharashtra State Biodiversity Board and is standing committee member of Ecological Restoration Alliance of India. With such a high profile and a busy schedule, we are very happy, ma'am, that you have taken your time off to be the speaker for our international conference. Thank you.
Thank you so much. It's a pleasure to be here. And I hope I'm audible. Just let me know whenever there is any break. First, it's my pleasure to be with all of you young researchers, students. I'm sorry for a little delay from my side. This is one of the most important workshops that is happening. As you all know, ephemeral wetlands are some very special habitats, and I will be talking about biodiversity and its conservation importance from these wetlands. I think for last day, you have been hearing about wetlands in general. A little brief introduction about myself has been given. Thank you for those kind words. So I am part of the IUCN's Western Ghats Plant Specialist Group, and we are committed towards conservation of plants, especially in the Western Ghats region. One of the works that we do is look at threatened species and threatened habitats. First, these are some of the most commonly known, talked about ecosystems. They are the major ecosystems, whether it's the marine, grassland, desert, wetlands, the forest. They are often talked about. They are often called as biomes also, very large ecosystems seen across the world. But hidden within these bigger ecosystems are smaller ecosystems. And they are of various natures. One of such smaller ecosystems is rock outcrops. So rock outcrops are nothing but very large rocks which are present in the landscape because of geological reasons. So they could be rocky hills. One very commonly known one is the Shravanbelgora Hill or the Savandurga Hill. They're large rock outcrops, but they're within a grassland biome. Similarly, you can find large rocky areas within a large forest. So, although they are present within a forest biome or a grassland biome or even a marine biome, they have their own special characters. And my work has always focused on such areas, rock outcrops. And the one that you see on the left-hand side below is the Rocky Plateau, which has been my major work since my doctorate times. So in Maharashtra, in the Western Ghats, when you're walking through the forest, sometimes you come across what are known as tablelands, like large, flat, rocky areas, and they look like any other, desert areas, but they are the special habitats that I have been working about. Today, we are not talking about them. We are talking about the ephemeral wetlands which occur on the rock outcrop. So it's something even more specific to it. Just a quick introduction how such outcrops are formed. So you know that most of India has formed because of various geological processes. The peninsular plate formed because of large volcanic eruptions. Now you have to imagine that time, maybe say 60 million years ago to a few more million years ago, where the constant volcanism was going on and various types of volcanic lava flew out. Lava could have been denser or weaker or denser or thinner at that time. So the weaker parts, the more erodible parts eroded faster, and the denser parts remained, forming such rocky hills. So if you look at on the left-hand side, this is Inselberg, what is known as island. This is from Orissa. So the original surface was somewhere up, and the rest of the area has weathered down into a wetland, but the rock still stands up. In the Western Ghats, there was basalt. Basalt flows were there, flat, and the harder flows remain, and the rivers created valleys, leading to what are known as mezzas or tableland. Mezza is just a word for table. So the original surface weathered down and outcrops remain, making them very special and extreme habitats. Because of the rock, they can be very dry, they can be very hot. But because we have a strong monsoon just transforms all these rocks and the life begins with the rainwater that comes down. So today we are going to talk about what happens to these outcrops and what kind of wetlands form on them because of the monsoonal waters. This is you can see the Tosegar waterfall, which is about, almost a 200 meters drop. And this is entire rocky cliff. The monsoon is a very strong phenomenon. So in summer, you have an area which looks almost like a flat, dry rock, very boring to the biodiversity people, almost nothing. Coming the first few months of monsoon, make it into a almost wetland. It's shallow, but the water accumulates, everything starts growing, it becomes green. End of monsoon, when there is sunlight, everything comes into flowering. This is mass blooming that happens. And that's a very short-lived phenomenon. Maybe for a month or so, you will see various types of flowers. Then the winter comes, the flowers dry out, they are seeding, and the grass grows. And very soon we go back to the summer season. So this cycle of life of 8 months of dryness and just 4 months of wetland is very special because all the plants that you see are adapted to it. Even the hydrophytes, which are typical wetland plants, are used to, and they're adapted to this kind of seasonality. Broadly, in a landscape, outcrops always work as primary watersheds. This is from Karnataka near Bangalore. Those of you who have seen Sholay film will remember the large Ramnagar outcrops, and water just flows along them because there's no way water can go in. There is no soil or there is very less soil, and water just flows off. But always at the base of the outcrop, you will find a big pond. Generally, there is a temple associated with it with different kinds of water lilies, and that's a classic feature. It's not just the water that flows down. There is also, along with the water, a little bit of weathered rock, the soil that comes down, whatever vegetation has grown, the nutrients it has released into the humus, all of them flow down. So it's not just a watershed, it's also a nutrient shade. And the nutrients collect generally in whatever are the shallow areas or crevices of the rocks or little, depressions. As a result of this, wherever you find such a depression, you will see water accumulating and soil and humus accumulating, and you will see vegetation along with it. The seasonal rock pools or monsoon rock pools on the rock outcrops has been one of the most studied subject, but not in India. Mostly abroad, in Africa, in large parts of Europe, in America and Australia, they have studied this, and they call them islands upon islands. So you have to imagine a rock outcrop, which is there. Like you can see these two, we are standing on one outcrop and the other is far away. And in between, there is completely different ecosystem. There are grasslands, there are forests, there are paddy fields. So whatever plants or animals are present on one outcrop find it extremely hard to move to the other outcrop, which leads to this islanding phenomenon. Just like you have islands in the sea, in the marine area, you will have islands in the land, which are the terrestrial habitat islands. Now, on these islands are these small water pools, each of which is separated from the other, unless there is a water flow. So they also function as little islands. All these characters are very important for the formation of new species. So you will constantly find people describing new species from these habitats. I am sure you have seen landscapes like this. If we were, physically together, we could have talked about it. But just nod if you have seen landscapes like this around you in Chennai. Yes, Salem areas, Madurai areas. I have just briefly passed through them. I am not familiar with the landscape so much, but I know that you will see landscapes such as this even around Tamil Nadu. The most dominant on any open rocky areas are Poaceae members, the grasses, Dichanthium, Dimeria, Ischimum, Heteropogons. I can go on narrating names. More than 100 genera can be seen on this. But they are all adapted to dryness. Now, what we see here, the A, B, C, D, are different types of ephemeral wetlands. They're aquatic habitats. Each one comes with its special features, its special flora and special fauna. The A, the one on the left-hand side on top, is a shallow rock pool. So it's nothing like, it's just like a saucer, very shallow. So if there is no rain, it will dry out. Maybe just for a day or so, it will hold water, but otherwise it will dry out. On the B, on the right-hand side, is a stream. So there are little channels of water which flow. Those are streams. The C on the left-hand side below is a deeper pool. So here the depression is really, really deep. You can see that the cattle, the buffaloes are sitting into it, and there are some times when it's even deeper. And this is where the real hydrophytes are, all the algae, all the different kinds of aquatic hydrophytes, they will be seen here. The most special among this is the deer. And this, I don't think it's very common in the dry areas, but in the Western Ghats, we have this. This is called as ephemeral flush vegetation. So here the water is not in channel, not in any depression, but it's just flowing through. So it's a large rocky area on which there is a thin film of water, and water is just seeping through, and the vegetation grows in it. All the endemism, diversification, speciation that you are going to see will be in these kinds of ephemeral habitats. The rock pools, typically rock pools will be formed wherever there is depression, and they can be sometimes, about a meter deep also, if they have been formed by certain geological processes. Round, saucer shapes vary. You can now see the drastic difference that happens. So there is a summer section. This is the rock pool, how it looks in summer. It's dry, it's just mud. You can pick it up and you can, you won't even feel that this is part of a wetland. The same place, as soon as the water fills up, becomes completely different, completely, suitable for various aquatic plants. The pool here has Oryza rufipogon, which is the wild grass that grows very, very commonly in our areas. Uh, the seeds of all these aquatic or marshy plants remain in the soil. They do not dry out. They remain in the soil, they remain dormant, and almost after 8 months of desiccation, they can come back to life and start all over again. This is Marsilia, an aquatic fern. There are different species. I think ours is quadrifida. Ours means from the Western Ghats side is quadrifida. And it forms almost a pure stand in a shallow rock pool like this. But what I was saying, islands upon islands, there is one rock pool with Marsilia, the other one, which is just, half a meter away maybe, or a meter away, has a different species. It's some Cyperaceae member. So there could be Picreas, Fimbris stylis, different types of Cyperus. Even there are some Xyris members which are seen in here. So they are seen in this. If you go a little further, the third rock pool will be dominated by completely different species. So this is like, you can never guess what you're going to find. You may find paspalums, you may find some other grass species which are like coics, which love little water bodies. So you're going to have surprises constantly when you are walking onto the outcrops in monsoon. What grows in here are generally water-loving taxa. They are not completely hydrophyte, they are not submerged, but they love water. Rotala is one of them. If I remember correctly, we have something like 20 plus species. All of them love such water bodies. They may be present in the near the bank or in the center of the water pool, but rotalas are very common. Small reddish flowers, hardly able to distinguish, and they are just in millions. The second other genus, which is very common and also a water-loving taxa, is Pogostemon. It has gone through a lot of name changes. It used to be Disophylla. Today it's Pogostemon, belonging to the family Lamiaceae, the Tulsi family. And this again colonizes little water bodies. It looks like a little forest of Lamiaceae, but it's just small. It's like maybe just this saucer of water which holds them. Extremely important for all the bees and the butterflies and all the flies, because they're attracted by the nectar and the pollen, and this provides copious food to all the pollinators in the landscape. As I said, deep rock pools are so deep that sometimes they can hold water even during the summer times. At least till November, December in the winter, you may see them full of some amount of water. So they are very important for all the cattle, local cattle, because that's the only place where water becomes available on the outcrop. All the grazing animals come there. They have the typical Saperaceae and Poaceae members. Uh, if you see the same place in monsoon, it's full of real hydrophytes. So in the southern India, there could be nymphia, different types of nymphias. We have nymphoides. This is the more common species, Nymphoides indica, but you have in Kerala, you have Nymphoides Krishna Kesari, if I remember correctly. And there are at least 4 to 5 different very beautiful nymphoides which are common in the rock pools, but they need a lot of water. They're rooted in the mud and the leaves are floating up. It's a beautiful phenomenon. Along with it are some grasses and Cyperaceae members. Another genus which loves such water bodies is Cleome or Corinandra. This one is endemic to Maharashtra area, and this loves slightly brackish water bodies on the rock outcrops. So this is Cleome angulata. It used to be Corinandra elegans. I personally love the old name because it's so beautiful. Elegance just signifies it. But today, older name is Cleome angulata. Caparaceae family, as you can very well see from the multiple stamens and uh, the female which is in between. So flora of deep rock pools is something very interesting, and you're going to find not just flora but also fauna. I think, yeah, this is one picture which is of a water channel, and it's a perennial water channel. Just as you have deep pools which hold water, you can also have deep pools which are connected to a stream or have a spring at its origin, which forms a constant perennial stream of water. They have their own special fauna. During the monsoon times, in this specific stream, you can see Cryptocorainae, a member of Araceae, the arum family. But you also get water lilies such as Crinum. What we have are Crinum viviparum. But in Kerala, in similar stream, you see a very rare water lily called Crinum malabaricum with almost a meter long leaves. So it just adapted to the flowing water. Cryptocorainae also requires such kind of flowing water. So it's either in the middle of the stream or at the edges of the stream. The inflorescence is like any arum. It's like a spadix with a spade, but there are multiple species, extremely rare and endemic to our areas. Similarly, you find them in Karnataka and Kerala also, but each has its own endemic species. So this only happens during monsoon. Most of the times you will not see them. Along the rest of the dry season, you won't see them. And the ephemeral flush vegetation. So ephemeral flush vegetation, as I said, it's a special feature. It kind of links the water pools to the streams because the water is seeping through. And this is where you get the most of the endemism and the highest diversity in ephemeral wetlands. So the one that you see here, the pink, the blooms are impatiens. This is impatiens larvae. You will also find some rotallas which are very specifically, associated with this. There are smithias, different types of smithias. We have smithia hirsuta, we have smithia purpurea, purple smithia. They will just take over the landscape. The front here, you may not be able to see it in this picture, but there are other pictures of it. So this one, there are blue dots in it. That's all a special feature again of Utricularia, which there are more pictures of it. A closer look reveals all this. The yellow ones are senecio. There are smithias, the white ones of eriocolons, different grasses. Some of the boulders would have Indopoa, it's a Indopoa paupercula, it's a monotypic grass, but there could be many others. So all of them require gentle water. If the water dries, you may not be able to see this vegetation for too long because they require this film of water. The purple blooms here in between are the utricularias from slightly distance. And these are the close-ups. Tiny, tiny flowers, all very brightly colored, but they are very tiny. They're just small, this small maybe. So Pulicaria chemicrista, which is from the Cisalpinaceae, Comelinaceae family, Murdania, Cyanotis, Indigoferas, Flamingias, Rubiaceae, all sorts of families. So Rubiaceae, Leguminosae, these are some of the highly diverse families on this. Comelinaceae is again very, very diverse. Lot of species have been reported on this. You can see that they are very brightly colored. The attractive part of it, the bright colors, the contrast with the green leaves, all these are extremely important for the pollinators. You can see this bee which is covered by the pollen because it's been just sorry. Okay. So these are all the ones that are all annuals. They're ephemeral, short-lived, insect pollinated, and all of them have wind dispersal. So the dispersal can happen to long distance for these because they're just fine seeds and they can be blown away with the wind. The most interesting group of these in the ephemeral flush vegetation is of the carnivorous plants. And here we have Drosera indica and Drosera burmani. Generally, these Droseras, carnivorous plants, are seen on many types of flooded areas, like along the rivers also, or in the forest you can sometimes see them. The special feature of ephemeral wetlands here is that they are seen in very large numbers. These plants are highly adapted to living in nutrient-poor soils. The soils here are poor in phosphorus. All the plants have found some way or other of adapting to them. In case of Drosera, they just catch insects. So whatever they are missing from the soil, they can get from the insects that are there. Both these species are not endemic, they are widely distributed. The way of attracting insects, as you can see, is these glandular hairs, sundew, which attracts the insects which get caught into this. So they trap the insects on their hair. The other group of carnivorous plants is special. So Utricularia, it's a genus which is commonly known as bladderworts. Bladderworts because they have this tiny bladders, like little sacs on their roots. So the sac is, I don't know whether you can see my hand, but it's like a balloon with an opening. And the water has to flow through it. Whatever little aquatic fauna, the nematodes or the zooplankton that come in, they are all digested by the bladders and their digestive system. These plants have an advantage. The one on the left is Utricularia scandens. There are some species, the yellow Utricularias are seen in India, Utricularia bifida, Utricularia scandens. They are partially terrestrial or they like water. There are some which are completely in water also. They have little floats which keep them buoyant on the water. They are seen in the deeper pools. But what is very special for India is the diversity of purple utricularias. This one specific one is Utricularia reticulata. So if you come to Western Ghats, say around September, you can travel from Maharashtra to Kerala all along through landscapes which are just full of these purple blooms. That is where the humans have not destroyed them. So Utricularia reticulata is endemic to the region. It is very, very dominant in the ephemeral flush vegetation, especially on the lower hill slopes, and it has very large flowers. So it is insect pollinated, but at the same time, its roots are catching small insects just for survival. Why the ephemeral flush vegetation is important for them is because unless there is a film of water and flowing water, they cannot eat. But wherever conditions are suitable for them, because very few plants can grow in such special conditions, they are like the kings and queens of the landscape. So they can form completely dominant vegetation when it comes to ephemeral wetlands. This genus has speciated widely. So you have on the higher altitudes, if you come to Panchgani, Mahabaleshwar, you're going to see Utricularia arcuata or Utricularia purpuruscens, Utricularia caerulea, Utricularia striatula. They're all forms of pinkish or purplish nature. Utricularia striatula is not an ephemeral flush vegetation, but it's a lithophytic species. So if there is a rock wall or there is a tree, bark of a tree, it can grow there. It is adapted to growing in vertical conditions. So sometimes in very high rainfall areas, you can find it growing on the walls of the houses as well. If it's really wet and if the walls are really old, you will find it. So here they have all prospered because they have adopted to carnivory and they can do best in such extreme conditions. The other genus which does really very well is Eriocolon. Again, Eriocolon is a very difficult genus for taxonomists. Only recently they have described species, and I think the numbers it's maybe 100 plus minus, but more species are being described every year. All over India, you will find Eriocolon, and it's the single genus of Eriocolaceae family that is seen in India. No other genus from this Eriocolaceae is seen in here, and they are all related to each other and they are widely distributed in ephemeral wetlands. So this one, especially on the left-hand side, is Eriocolon eurypeplon. The leaf has got a little sheath, and that sheathed part holds water. So even if for a day or so there is no rain, that little droplet of water that is held by the leaf can sustain the plant for another day or so. When they are in the landscape, they form these carpets, just like Utricularia. So generally, when one names vegetation, it is done by characteristic genera. So if there is Mammicelon syzygium forest, same way, in the ephemeral wetlands, the vegetation is called as Eriocolon utricularia type of vegetation. And this type of vegetation is, you can see it in here and in Africa. So the old world tropics, as we know them, paleotropics, if you go to Kenya, you're going to see again the same genera, Eriocolon and utricularia, but completely different species. In Australia or South America, you're going to see different species from the same families. This shows us how we were once united as a continent and we have just, separated, and speciation has happened in India parallelly to speciation in Africa. Coming back to Eriocolon forms this dense community mix of species. Eriocolon stellulatum, Aegiton, the one that you are seeing is Sedgwicki, and they look like grass. Many people think of them as grass, but it's not grass. They're close to grass. They're called as graminoids. The big difference between grasses and them is that this little head of flowers that you see here, the white flowers, they are very small, but each one has got a gland which secretes nectar. And they are pollinated by the moths and butterflies. So moths and butterflies come for the nectar, and especially this one I remember, it was just drunk on the nectar. It was just creeping around, just drinking nectar. So you imagine now that this so-called dry landscape in the monsoon is a garden of heaven for all the pollinators. The same pollinators which are going to go back to the human landscapes and pollinate our vegetables, our orchards. The other species, Eriocolon, we saw it has speciated in ephemeral flush vegetation, in the shallow pools, and here in the deep streams that you see, there is a almost aquatic Eriocolon fluviatile. It requires flowing water, deep channels. Eriocolon dalzale is another such species. And once they take hold, they can just completely cover a stream. Very beautiful. You should come here and see this. They need to be, the leaves are all inside water. The inflorescence emerge above water because they need pollinators, but that's the that's the typical habitat that they prefer. So you've seen these two genera, each speciated into different microhabitats. Another very special Eriocolon you see in the pools on high altitudes in Satara district of Maharashtra. It's not very common. Satara and Kolhapur district only you will see. This it's like all other Eriocolons except for the fact that it develops little tubers. So it's not an annual species, it's a geophytic species. It's a perennial species. Those little tubers, they are like lily tubers, but very small. They remain in the mud during the dry phase. So here you can see that this species is so well adapted that it's most likely evolved in this landscape. And I'm not just one, that you can show, I can show multiple examples of species which have evolved because they are so adapted to the seasonal wetlands. This is my colleague, Dr. John Thorpe Dixon. So he did a study of the rock pools and generally the species richness of them. This is just one little pool, and he and his researchers, you can see the different kinds of things that they have got, These are the shrimps. The one on the right is what looks like a snake is not a snake. It's actually a swamp eel. It's a endemic fish. Water beetles. There is a water spider. Then there are again tribes. They are called tribal shrimps and Aponogeton satarensis, one true hydrophile. So all this is catch from one single, check on the water pool. This is what the ephemeral, this is what the fairy shrimps look like. They are little invertebrate shrimps, as you can see. They live in water pool in thousands. If the water is really fresh, really unpolluted, you can see them forming little schools and going round and round and round, and beautiful to watch. They all swim backwards. They are doing, what is called as backflip, and very tiny. The ones that are in the picture, they're all males that you can distinguish from their orange tails, and the females will be around somewhere. Most interesting thing about it is they live only during the monsoon. They mate during the monsoon. They lay fertilized eggs at the end of the monsoon. And the eggs, sorry. Okay. If there is a question, you can just put up your hand and ask the question. Okay, yeah. So, these eggs that the shrimps lay have a special ability to tolerate desiccation. They just remain in this dehydrated, fertilized state for 8 months till the next monsoon rain comes. But if you take that soil and put it in aquarium, the shrimps come out. So this is an adaptation that they have developed to live in such seasonally wet areas. So these are the fairy shrimps. There are clam shrimps, there are tadpole shrimps. All of them have their own special habitats that they like. Another group that loves such areas are mollusks of different types. This one specifically is known as apple snail, Pilia, I think it's called. Uh, it's collected with eggs here, and these are favorite food of all the local community. So during the monsoons, you will see small children, old men, all collecting, women also, all collecting, all going to the rock outcrops, collecting these snails, because you can make a little nutritious curry out of that. And they are there in millions. There are large numbers of them are seen everywhere. Another group, as you can imagine, is the odonata, the dragonflies, the damselflies. Uh, they use these habitats for mating. You can see a copulating pair on the left, and there are multiple other species, new species again are getting discovered all the time. They require clean, fresh water, little water bodies that are, useful to them. Amphibians is one group which loves this. Uh, Toads, frogs, and Sicilian. Sicilian is a legless amphibian that you can see on the left. And they all require these kinds of habitat for breeding. They have to lay eggs. They use it for feeding as well. And during the dry period, they just vanish into the cracks on the rock outcrops. They live in deep soil, and they live there in the wet soil during the winters and summers. I'm not sure whether you can distinguish the animal that I'm trying to show here. It's a soft-shelled turtle. This is the head of it on the right side, and you can see the body. It's so well camouflaged that it's actually a big turtle, like this big, but you can hardly see. So this was encountered by our researchers during the night surveys. So night is the time when they used to conduct herpetofaunal surveys, and they would find such gems like this little turtle which was trying to hide. What happens to them after the monsoon was a puzzle to us. But there was a team which was doing hydrological surveys, and they were, digging into the stream, and they found a little turtle. Then we talked to the local people, and they said that there are a lot of places where turtles hide in deep soil and come out during the monsoon. Birds are also commonly seen, and you can see grassland birds like the lark. We have Malabar lark, we have pipit, sitting cisticola, lapwings, red-wattled and yellow-wattled, which are typical dryland, grassland birds. Indian courser can be seen. At the same time, because of the monsoon puddles, you also see the uh, birds which prefer aquatic habitats, like the migratory lesser-whistling duck. There are places where the woolly neck cranes come. Cormorants are commonly seen in deep pools. So because of this, we did a survey and we found 100 plus grasses in one site, because you can get multiple habitats and all of them really love it. Little pools are very special for the endemics to form. This is Weisneria triangra. This is a broad endemic. You can see it right from, again, Maharashtra to Kerala. It also grows in rice fields. It's like a weed. You can't see any flowers. It's like grass. But this is the original habitat, a rock pool, which is pretty deep. It prefers that. And then the endemics are formed, speciated on this, which are narrow endemics. So this is Aponogeton genus, and you will see two distinct lines of species forming. Aponogeton satarensis, which is on the high altitude plateaus, which is about 1,000 meter plus. If you have heard of the Khas World Heritage Site, you find it there. And Aponogeton nateshi, which is on the Konkan and Goa plateaus. Both again are endangered. We did a red list assessment, and they are very endangered. People have a specific relationship with water here because these are dry landscapes, so you need to make water available. And wells such as this could be about 500, 700 years old, built wells. This is built in laterite. The one on the right is built basically for the cattle. This is a shallow well. It's a trench that is dug and the outcrop just seeps water into it. So you'll see them commonly holding different kinds of water bodies in the landscape. Because water is such a special feature here, it is highly revered. On the left-hand side, you will see what to my eye would look like a simple hole dug into the stone. But this is the only water hole for an entire village. And they are so much protective of it. They say that when our ancestors founded the village, this well was created. So it's a small water hole, but highly protected. On the right-hand side, you will see a whole well, lateritic well, which is part of a temple landscape and there are some rituals which are conducted there every year. The wildflowers are collected at the time of Ganesh festival, at the time of different wildflower, rituals that are done. What is most special to my eye are what is recently found, the rock art which has been discovered on the rocky plateaus of Maharashtra. It's already in the tentative list of UNESCO, and you can see elephant, you can see different fish, even a rhinoceros, some amphibians, monkey and humans all together. What this shows is that this is probably about 5,000 years to 10,000 years old. What it shows that the ancestors who lived there knew both land and water biodiversity really well, and they were living with it. So this is something that's very special. Talking about threats, I don't think I need to elaborate more on this. You can see for yourself all over, wetlands have these issues. Pollution, solid water, solid waste disposal. This is after one single Ganesh festival. Building of dams, which just alters the flows, and here the dam was not necessary. They could have just used the little water hole carefully, but instead they decided to construct a dam which has altered all the water flows and has destroyed an entire ecosystem. And the quarries, the quarry here of laterite, but if you go to Bangalore, granite, different types of limestones, all are quarried, and that's a major threat to all the rock outcrop wetlands. And the last but not the least, this is picture from the Mopa airport. The left one was from 2014, the right one is from 2017. You can see how it has changed. And this change becomes possible because all these areas are classified as wetlands. Nobody has bothered about their diversity, their endemism, the rich life that I was showing all of you in government's terminology is wasteland, which we need to change. As citizens of India, as people of India, I think we can say that our land is not wasteland, and therefore giving it away for mega projects should not be done, or should be done only after proper surveys are conducted. If a good survey had been conducted in monsoon, it would have been difficult. But in this case, it just went through. What we are trying to do is educate people about it, make awareness generation, document the knowledge of local communities about it, and put it to the government. All this is in Marathi. Water is a special feature because that appeals to everybody, whether it's a government officer or whether it's a local person or a student or anybody. They understand the importance of water. So ephemeral wetlands, we argue that they're important for the water security. And we have this website called Rock Outcrop of India. Please take a look at it anytime. And we have a Facebook group, and there are a lot of papers which have come out recently, and they are all put together on the net. They're all open access. Feel free to access them. Feel free to reach out to any one of us. There are photos and names of all of us there. And hope you like this little glimpse of our area and conduct more such surveys in your area. So thank you once again to the Women's Christian College, Chennai, and thank you, Vanita Madam and Rajit Sir, for giving me this opportunity. I hope we have some time for questions.
Good morning, ma'am. You were talking about aquatic water beetles and spiders, and also about aquatic fairy shrimps. So, what will happen to these fauna during the end of monsoon season? Like, how do they adapt during winter and summer?
So, we don't really know much about this, but what we found in term for the water beetles was a special study of John. So they migrate at the end of the monsoon. They fly. They fly to the larger water bodies, like they fly to the nearest river, or there are some places where they are found in the wells also, or large ponds. They fly there. Same was seen recently by a researcher for crabs. The crabs migrate from the river to the rock outcrop top, the plateau top in the monsoon and go back. Amphibians most likely burrow in the soil and live there. Shrimps just desiccate. They, they, they have that ability. But for spiders, we have not been able to figure out. There's actually just one genus which builds one species, which is described by Dr. Siddharth Kulkarni, which forms a web on top of the water. But no idea what happens to it afterwards.
Thank you, ma'am. Also, can introduction of species from one ecosystem to another ensure the survival of those species being introduced to that new ecosystem? Because the nutrient content will be different from one ecosystem to another. So how will that work?
So it's not suggested, like one shouldn't be doing it. Like, for example, if somebody introduces some species in this and they turn invasive, they can just take over the landscape. For example, there are places where Hyptis ovulans has been actually accidentally introduced and it has taken over the entire rocky area. In Bangalore, Dodonia viscosa has been invading. Lantana camara is a huge invader. And they can just change everything. They can change the water flows, they can change everything. The other way around, if we take some species from here and try to put it elsewhere, they may find it very difficult to survive. I know people who have managed to take the eriocolons and cryptocorynes and introduce them into aquariums and kept them alive. And in fact, some of the endemic eriocolons are used as aquarium plants. You can buy them off the internet. Some utricularias have been put into aquariums. You can pay a price and get the seeds and grow them. So they do, but in open, it might be difficult. The other way, interesting thing is that some species, especially some of the grasses and some of the Cyperaceae members and the Comelinaceae members, have managed to jump out and grow on walls, grow on forts, grow on even houses, and they can become weedy. But it's very hard to say whether they cause any problems elsewhere. They are disturbance tolerant, they have this fast lifestyle, and it's good for them to be there. But as ecologist, one shouldn't be trying these experiments of introducing from one place to another at all, or should be done with extreme care.
Yes, ma'am. You were talking about the flora in shallow rock pools like Marsilia and like Thalassene, and as far as I saw, they were no coexistent with all those species. So can that be possible when both the species or even more than two species can be introduced, not introduced, be there in one particular rock pool?
Oh, yes. I've just shown you some, which are stark examples. But there are places like one of the surveys that one of my researchers did, she found up to 10 species cohabiting a larger rock pool. It depends also on what has been the history of that pool, how old it has. Like if it's a freshly formed pool, then you will find one or two species. If it's an old pool which is undisturbed, there is no pollution, there are no cattle wading through it or people throwing garbage, then you can find up to 10-15 species in just one small thing. Even in a little saucer, sometimes you find like just like little hole, you will find 4 or 5 species, all tiny, tiny ones. But yes, coexistence is possible.
Thank you, ma'am. Thank you, ma'am, for the insightful
Thank you so much.
enlightening session. Your talk provided a deeper understanding of the biodiversity of ephemeral wetlands and highlighted the critical conservation needs and challenges associated with these fragile ecosystems. We sincerely appreciate your valuable time and the depth of knowledge you have shared with us. I now invite Dr. Julia, Assistant Professor, to deliver the vote of thanks.
Thank you, ma'am, for taking us on a journey to this ephemeral wetlands and highlighting to us about the threatened species and threatened habitats. Thank you for giving us an overview of what is a rock outcrops, their special features, and how they are formed by the geological processes, and how monsoon plays a major role, okay, in converting to these dry rock areas into ephemeral wetlands. And thank you, ma'am, for the very beautiful photographs and description of all the flora and fauna of these ephemeral wetlands, starting from Marsilia to the grasslands to the water-loving Rotala to Pogostenium, the deep rock pools such as nymphoids, the ephemeral thrush vegetation which were pink and blue in color, the impatiens, Rotola, Smithia, and so many species which you showed us, and also the beautiful fauna which you had captured in these ephemeral wetlands. Thank you for also highlighting the importance of these ephemeral wetlands and also the mega projects carried on to conserve these landscape vegetation. On the whole, it was a very informative and very enriching talk, ma'am. Thank you so much.
Thank you all.
We sincerely thank all the participants and esteemed guest speakers for your valuable presence and active involvement. We now request you to kindly proceed for the tea break and make use of the tea token provided. The next session will commence at 11 a.m. 11 a.m. We request the delegates to kindly proceed to Brotherton 40 and the participants to the Centenary Block lobby. We request everyone to please be back by 10:45 a.m. I repeat, we request everyone to be back by 10:45. We request everyone to please be back by 10:30 a.m. Thank you.
Good morning, everybody. I welcome you all to the session 6 of the International Symposium. We are honored to have Dr. K.A. Subramaniam with us today, who is going to speak on diversity and conservation of aquatic insects of India. Aquatic insects play a vital role in freshwater ecosystem and act as important bioindicators of environmental health. Through this talk, we gain valuable insights into their diversity across Indian habitats and the urgent need for their conservation. Now I may call upon Dr. Jhansi Merlin, Associate Professor of Department of Advanced Zoology and Biotechnology, to present the introduction of the speaker.
It gives me great pleasure to present our speaker for the International Symposium. We are honored to have Dr. Subramanian with us, who will speak on diversity and conservation of aquatic insects of India. Dr. Subramanian is a senior scientist and the officer in charge of the Southern Regional Center of the Zoological Survey of India, Chennai, functioning under the Ministry of Environment, Forest and Climate Change, Government of India. With a strong academic foundation in entomology, he obtained his master's degree in medical entomology from Vector Control Research Center, Puducherry, and completed his PhD at Madurai Kamaraj University while associated with the Western Ghats Biodiversity Project at the Center for Ecological Sciences, Indian Institute of Science, Bangalore. His professional journey includes prestigious research fellowships such as DBT, postdoctoral fellow at the National Center for Biological Sciences, and as a DST Young Scientist at the Center for Ecological Sciences, IISc. Since joining the Zoological Survey of India in 2008, Dr. Subramanian has made outstanding contributions to the study of aquatic insect diversity, ecology, and conservation, particularly in freshwater and wetland ecosystems across India. Through extensive fieldwork in varied landscapes of the country, he has discovered and described over 50 new species of mayflies, dragonflies, and aquatic birds. He has authored 8 books, published more than 150 research papers, and is well known for his widely used field guide on the dragonflies of India, which has greatly enhanced awareness and documentation of freshwater biodiversity. Dr. Subramaniam also serves as a member of the IUCN Species Survival Commission and also is a recognized supervisor at the University of Madras and Calcutta University. He has contributed to so many different state and national advisory committees, and his work seamlessly connects taxonomy, ecology, and conservation practices. We are delighted to have you, sir, here. Thank you.
Okay.
A very good morning to all students. I thank Women's Christian College for giving me an opportunity to interact with you. So, on that. So today I'm going to give you an introduction to aquatic insects. So now what are aquatic insects? And if I ask you what is the most common aquatic insects, you won't know. So you have the pointables changing. Okay, please. Thank you. So can you say what is the most common aquatic insects which may be present in this room itself? Yeah, can go to mosquito. Mosquito is the most common. It's ubiquitous. It's found everywhere. So I'll come to it later, but now we can talk more about mosquitoes and why it's important later. Let me please go to. So if you look at the why, if you look at the total number of people dying every year, no, so globally people talk a lot about elephants killing people or a tiger killing people. But if you look at globally, it is the aquatic insect, it is mosquito. So that is killing more than 8 lakh people every year through transmission of various diseases, both viral and protozoal diseases. Human itself kill other human beings about nearly 6 lakhs. So that figure is a little older, but the latest figure will be even higher because of all these. The latest figure available is for 2016. But if you look at even the recent incidents of the number of human beings killing other human beings will be much larger annually. But mosquito bite death is about 8 lakhs. And next comes the snake bite, nearly 75,000. And even dog bites, like about 13,000 people die every year globally. Okay, so like if you look at large mammals, which is always the media, like elephant or a tiger, much lesser when compared to mosquitoes. So aquatic insects are not just ecologically important, they are also important medically, they are also important culturally also. So please, next slide, please. If you look at the freshwater, all these are, most of aquatic insects are in freshwater, only very few are there in marine or estuarine systems. So if you look at the availability of global freshwater, so only a very small amount of freshwater is there globally. So most of the freshwater what we see is locked up as ice or only the surface freshwater, that is like only about 0.3% of all the water availabilities is available as lakes, ponds, rivers. So most of the freshwater that is available is very, very less. But if you look at the species diversity of all the organisms, is disproportionately very high. If you look at the diversity of aquatic insects or freshwater fishes, if you look at the availability of habitat and the number of species, freshwater has a much higher number of species in terms of proportion of habitat availability, much higher than that of marine ecosystems or terrestrial ecosystems. Next one. So, like India being in the very interesting part of the globe, it has very diverse freshwater ecosystem. So this is the Siam River in Arunachal Pradesh, where it enters into India after coming from the China. So this is the Siam River. Later it becomes the Brahmaputra. So it provides, freshwater provides several services, ecosystem services. So many of them you may think provides provisioning services, it provides supporting services or maintaining ecosystems or have several cultural services. So freshwater ecosystem as a whole is very, very important for the life and activities of human beings. Next one, please. So there are something called ecosystem flows. So the freshwater ecosystems not just support the several species of animals. It also has several geological importance, also have nutrient recycling. So the flow of these ecosystems, the natural flow of water is very, very important for the landscape to be maintained. So it has very, very significant functions. Next one, please. So food, for example, provides a lot of food. Both color, this is a photograph of freshwater streams taken from Manipur, wild caught freshwater streams. Next one provides agriculture. So these are services that the freshwater ecosystem provides. Next one, please. Or even livelihood. So several species of freshwater, wild caught freshwater species are supports livelihood of several millions of people throughout India. The next one, please. Or it has several spiritual significance, like India being a like several wetlands are worshipped. Next one, please. Or like we have about 15.26 million hectares of inland freshwater, freshwater wetlands exist in India. That is about 4.63% of total land mass. So this is both permanent wetlands, temporary wetlands, man-made wetlands, natural wetlands, everything together. We have huge wetlands. Like for example, paddy fields are seasonal wetlands. So there are different types of wetlands. I'm not going to detail. So they have natural man-made wetlands, coastal wetlands. So all these, there is a good estimate of how much wetlands we have and what is happening to wetlands. Through satellite imageries, there are several studies, district-wise studies you can see in the websites. There are websites, so district wetland maps are available. So each wetland, what is happening, we have good data. Next one, please. So biogeographically, you may be aware that we have different biogeographic zones. So similarly, wetlands are also like riverine regions, wetland regions are also classified into different zones based on their geology, based on their climate, also based on their flora and fauna, freshwater fauna. So we have about 20 wetland ecoregions. So the flora and fauna of each of these wetland regions are different from the other. So this is a natural boundary. So these are not administrative boundaries. These are natural boundaries of the freshwater ecosystems of the India. Next one, please. So these are some photos of natural wetlands in India to give you an idea of what kind of, these are trans-Himalayan wetlands. Mostly these are snow-melt wetlands, so above tree line. So you can see only in summer. This is a picture of Satluj River in Spiti Valley. Okay, so in the most 8 months it will be covered with snow, but in the summer it will be totally different. So there is no tree here. It's about 4,000 meters above. So these are then you come down a little down further about rivers of these are Bias River, Himachal Pradesh. These are torrential rivers, like very fast flowing rivers, and each of these have different kind of fauna and flora. Next one, please. So you have then eastern Himalaya, you have Brahmaputra Valley, so that is also very rich, much lower altitude and tropical. Next one, please. This is in the central India, that is in Chambal in Rajasthan, Madhya Pradesh border. So this is a part of Aravalli ranges, now already the reduced Aravalli. So this is a entirely different kind of riverine ecosystem and has a entirely different kind of fauna. And next one. So then we have this, if you go travel to northeast, you have Loktak Lake in Manipur. So this is a unique ecosystem where you have floating islands, what you call fluids. So this is a unique system where there are people cultivate also. People cultivate vegetables and small crops there. And these are floating islands. So they keep moving. And there are species that is adapted to. We have a famous brown deer called Manipur dancing deer, endemic to this kind of floating islands. Next one. Then you have coastal wetlands. So along east and west coast, you have along the coast, you have certain systems, mostly grown with pandanus and other. This is not mangroves, but these are all coastal wetlands. So they will be slightly saline, but they have very highly diverse. But these are very fast disappearing because most of these are not protected areas, and people easily convert them for development and agriculture. Next one. Then we have coastal lagoons. We have famous lagoon like Chilka and or Pulicat Lake. So these are coastal lagoons. So these are also very highly diverse ecosystems. Next one. Then you have in the Western Ghats, we have very interesting high altitude streams and peacocks. Again, above the Shola grassland ecosystem, part of Shola grassland ecosystem. So these are all species where wetland habitats where there are several species exist. Next one. Again, another photo of that high altitude streams in the anomalies. Next one. This is the Nilgiri, same high altitude streams, Upper Bhavani area. Next one. Then you have our hill streams, very highly diverse. I would say this is the most diverse ecosystem in terms of aquatic fauna and flora, both in aquatic insects, freshwater fishes, amphibians, several species of plants. So in the Western Ghats, you have some of these very interesting and highly diverse ecosystems. Next one. Then you have habitats like waterfalls. These are unique habitats where specialized species exist. Next one. Then you have again another interesting habitat called meristica swamps. So very patchy and tiny remnant ecosystems that is found in unique to Western Ghats. So you have like up to from Kanyakumari up to border of Maharashtra, you have interesting these small patches. So the flora and fauna found here are very unique and mostly very small patches associated with streams. So these are all relict forest patches. So you have permanent water. So these are like a mangrove ecosystem, but inside a tropical rainforest. Next one. Then you have other interesting wetland habitats. These are called phytotelmata. So phytotelmata are wetlands. These are temporary wetlands where water gets collected during rainy season. So tree holes system, tree hole ecosystems. So there are several species that are adapted to tree holes. So during the monsoon, that tree holes will be covered with water, and several species breed there, including some species of amphibians. And during summer, they reside there. Some of these species, like reptiles, reside there. Some birds reside there. So these are very unique and interesting habitat. And there are some species of dragonflies that are adapted to these tree holes also. Next one. Then you have inland wetland that is mostly man-made, like farm ponds. So, but they are also hold a lot of biodiversity. Next one. Then you have lakes and reservoirs, again man-made lakes and reservoirs. They also play important role. Next one. Then you have rock pools, again quarry pools, again made by human beings, but they also have several species in these ecosystems. Next one. So again, another man-made ecosystem that is paddy fields. So these are temporary ecosystems, but they support large number of species. Next one. Then you have this urban wetlands. So these are entirely different because in terms of their management and their issues, conservation. This is a picture of the Pallikarni marshland here. So they also support large number of species, including endangered and threatened species like great elephants. Next one. Then these are large ecosystems. Now we come to some of the like what are these aquatic insect habitats where you can find them. Next one. So aquatic insects, when we talk about, we are talking about 13 orders of insects. So we have like mayflies, we have dragonflies, we have stoneflies and butterflies. So all these are, there are about 13 insect orders, we are dealing with 13 insect orders. But they are all different in their terms of life history, their ecological significance, their evolution, everything they are very. Next one. So these are some of the different groups of aquatic insects, just to show you how they are. So these are aquatic coleopterans, you have aquatic bugs, you have dipterans, you have trichoptera. So all these are different groups of aquatic insects. Next one. And several species, these are all adults, okay, but the larval stage, they look entirely different. Okay, so the first one is a dipteran larva, then you have a dragonfly larva, you have a beetle larva, you have mayfly larva, you have a stone caddisfly larva, you have a black fly larva. So the many species of aquatic insects, most of the species, the part of their life is spent in water, either as a larval stage or like for example dragonflies or mosquito, or they so they spend most of their time in water and their life is adapted to water. So either in their morphology or how they take oxygen or how they take food. So most of the species, the adult is a dispersal stage. Okay, so when they grow, they most of the time they eat and they grow and they develop, and when they are become adult, they come out of the water and they mate and go to another habitat for a year. So the most of the time is like, for example, mayflies. Mayflies, the maximum time, about 1 year they spend in water as larva. Then they eat and grow and they develop as adult. They mate and they survive for maybe 1 or 2 days. They lay egg and they die. So the adults don't feed. But something like dragonflies. Dragonflies are different. I'll come to it little later on dragonflies. Dragonflies, what they do, both adult and larvae live in entirely different habitat and they have different ecological functions. So larvae is predator, they live in water, they grow, they develop into adult, they come out of the water and they disperse into the landscape, surrounding landscape, what we call it as riparian landscape. And again they are aerial predators, they again mate and they come back to water. But like for example, Trichoptera or this one, some of these dipterans, they don't go far away from the water. So they are all associated with wetland habitat. Next slide, please. So these are some of the habitats already shown. These are streams and waterfalls. Next one. Again, different streams. Next one. Can collect all different. There are different habitats within the stream itself. This is what we call it as cascades. So small where water is flowing through small boulders, kind of thing, and they all hold a lot of cavities and also they trap vegetation. So in this vegetation, a lot of aquatic insects live. Next one. Then you have stream pools, like large pools in the stream. So these are very interesting habitats, both for aquatic insects and also for fishes, because these pools, they don't dry up in the summer. So the many species congregate during this summer season to these pools. So these are very, very important habitat for the summer season. Next one. Then phytotelement, I already told you, like these are small water hole collections. So we have kept a net to find out what are the species emerge to trap them. Next one. So within a small section of water body also, you can see aquatic insect distributed in different parts. Like for example, when you take aquatic bugs, so some species live inside the cobles and boulders and in the benthic season, and some of them live in the water column, and some of them live in the aquatic vegetation. So some of them on the water surface. So each and every species have a distribution, habitat, this microhabitat distribution within the wetland itself or a water body. This is a section of a stream to show how these species are distributed within the habitat. Next one. So you can collect most of these aquatic insects using small net and brushes. The field. Next one. This is one method. So there is another net called kick net. So this is a huge squeak. So using the water current, when you disturb water current, all the insects in the boulders and substrate will be trapped. You can collect them. Next one. Or you can use a small aquarium nets to collect some of these aquatic insects that is in the water surface. Next one. Or you can use light traps to collect aquatic insects, especially the adults immediately after sunset when they emerge can collect because you need them to identify. So you can use the light, mostly the mercury vapor lamp, or you can use nowadays you are getting very good battery operated light traps. You can use them. Next one. So this is how you may fly in the collected in the light trap books. So adults you can collect. Next one. So once you collect these aquatic insects, which is very important to record the data very importantly. So you can use ethanol or methanol, like for 90 or 70%, 90%, small wires. Then you can put all the labels like date, locality, geocoordinates, and you can identify, you need a microscope to identify many of the species. Next one. So let me just give you an outline of how these species have evolved and what is their ecological behavior. Next one. So why we study aquatic insects? So one is that it is very easy to study them. You don't need much effort. You can easily study them, and they are very, very important in the ecosystem because they form the food. They are also predators for many other organisms, and very good and good indicators of water quality, because you can use them as a very good indicator of water quality, and you can also use them as models for other ecological studies, for ecology, behavior. There are a lot of studies on ecology and behavior and biogeopolitical studies. So you can use, it's a very good model system to do several studies. Next one. So I already told you, like many of these aquatic insects are also transmit disease. Say, for example, mosquito, like they are transmit several species, not just to human beings, but also to livestock and also to wild animals. Okay, for example, they transmit several plasmodium species, not only to human beings, but also to wildlife and also to our domesticated animals. Several viruses they transmit. So there's a lot of studies, ecological studies on aquatic insects like mosquitoes. Like globally, there are several studies on that and their physiology. They're like one of the very well studied insects, we can say. Like after Drosophila, mosquitoes may be very well studied because of their importance. Next one, please. And they also have very important food chain linkages. So they form in the secondary consumers or tertiary consumers in the food chain, and they form an important source of food for fishes, and also next one, please. Also for several wetland birds. Okay, like several wetland birds directly dependent on aquatic insects, large aquatic insects, especially islands. And there are like we don't have it here, but in Himalaya you can see there are entire group of birds that dependent on stream insects, like for example, fork tails are there, and river stars are there. So these are all, or even dippers are there. So they are all entirely dependent on the aquatic insects for their survival. Next one. So if you look at the evolution, so aquatic insects, in the insect evolution, aquatic insects have evolved multiple times. Okay, so they have like from the ancient ones like Odonata and Ephemeroptera. So they are all about Devonian age, about 360 million years old. They are very old insects, like because why they are called as Odonata, they are called as Paleoptera. Paleoptera is an old wings, because they cannot fold wings, so they always have to keep the wings stretched out. So these, like for example, dragonflies and mayflies, they cannot fold their wings over their back. But once the newer forms, Plecoptera, like for example, stoneflies, they could fold their wings over their back. So these are all not that old. Like older one is Odonata and Ephemeroptera. Then you have this stoneflies, Plecoptera, Hemiptera. So the red ones, what I have marked as red ones, these are the groups which could use dissolved oxygen in the water. Okay, so they have morphological adaptations and physiological adaptations to acquire dissolved oxygen directly from the water. So they don't have to come out. Okay, but the groups like Hemiptera, that is bugs, or a Neuroptera or Coleoptera, beetles, or Lepidoptera or Diptera, they cannot use the dissolved oxygen. Okay, so they have morphological adaptations. So they have to come often to the water surface to take atmospheric air. So I will show you some of these figures. Oh, sorry, photos. So they have like siphons, they have hairs in the body. So when they come out, the air bubble get trapped. Then they go underwater. Then once that is used, again they have to come. So, but these are all secondary adapted to water. Like for example, Hemiptera, it evolved in terrestrial system, then later colonized into freshwater. Similarly, Coleoptera. So originally evolved in terrestrial ecosystem, but later migrated to freshwater ecosystem. Diptera also, they are actually Diptera, they are not fully terrestrially evolved, but semi-aquatic, I would say. That they mostly prefer to live in moist conditions. Next one. So oldest airborne predators, like about these are old dragonflies, more than 200 million years before. So the morphology has not changed much, only their size has reduced. So for example, 300 million years ago, the size of dragonfly was the size of a pigeon. That was the size of. But over the years, the morphology didn't change, but only their size got reduced. That is due to the change in the level of atmospheric oxygen. So over the years, the level of atmospheric oxygen has come down. So due to that, the size of many species, many groups have come down. Next one. So like this is the like mechanism that is about wingspan was about 1.8. These are, we have fossils of this species. And human beings, if you compare that with the size. Next one. So if you look at, these are fossil dragonflies. Okay. So about Permian fossils. So if you look at the morphology, the dragonfly and dancerfly, morphology has not changed. Even the larval morphology has not changed. But even some of these behavior, like this what we call it as we say, copulatory behavior of dragonflies, that has not changed over these millions of years. Next one. But these are most of those are from the Germany, but in India, within Indian subcontinent, we have got fossils of dragonflies. Mid Cretaceous from the amber fossils from the Burma, Myanmar. Myanmar is providing lot of, recently Myanmar is giving us a lot of insect fossils, amber fossils. Next one, please. So these are all from the Myanmar amber fossils. So there are several. So these are the dragonfly fossils which I got from this one. Next one. But we also have some of these ancient living fossils in Himalaya. Or there is one species is there, that is called Epiophobia leidloi. So this is a living fossil of a dragonfly that is found 3,000 meter above in the Himalayas. So relatives are found in China and Japan. 3 species are there. But the actual relatives are, there are several fossils of this species from the fossils, different fossils. But currently only 3 species are there that is found in the Himalaya. But adults are also very, very rare to find. I think we have only 2-3 specimens in the whole world. Okay, larval stage, larva people are getting larva, but adults are very, very difficult to find. So there are several recent discoveries in the Nepal and Bhutan. But from India, there is not much reports. No recent reports. Next one. Like coming to the diversity, next one. So if you look at the total freshwater biodiversity of India, there are about 9,000 plus species of all groups. If you look at from protozoa to mammalia, more than 9,000 species. People are discovering every day. Okay, so every day new species are being discovered. So of this, nearly half, you can say, like more than this, the data is old, maybe 3-4 years old. So more than half of the species are aquatic insects. Next one. So among these, the most diverse groups are again Diptera. Okay, so Diptera, of all these aquatic insects, more than 50, nearly half of them are Dipterans. Dipterans are flies. Next one. So just to show you different groups, this is mayflies. So we have about 240 species in India. So this is adult mayfly. Next one. So the life cycle is like this. So the mayfly lays eggs, female lays eggs and dies. And the nymph will be there for 1 year, nearly 1 year, in water. And subimago emerge from, there is a stage called subimago. So before the adult, there is a stage called subimago. And within subimago transform into adult within 24 hours. And they make and die. So their association is closely associated with water. So adults don't feed. So that is why they are called ephemera. Ephemeroptera. Ephemera is very transient. So they live for adults live only for 1 year. But the actual larva will live for more than 1 year. For some species, especially the cold water species, which live for more than 1 year are also there. Next one. Then these are different species of mayflies and larval species. You could see the morphological differences. So they have what we call it as abdominal gills. Okay, so that is to take the dissolved oxygen. So you can see the abdomen, you have different types of gills. So there are some species are burrowing forms. They burrow inside the soil, sand. Some of them, most of them live in the rocks associated with rock. And their morphology is adapted in such a way that they can withstand water current. So they are found in high velocity water. So they are adapted to such a way that they don't get carried away by the water current. Next one. So these are actual, that is illustrating the actual photos of different mayflies, very common species found in different part of India. So I have put this is how they look, and these are the mouth parts. So the mouth parts are very, very important in their identification because different species have different ways of acquiring food. So some of them scrape the rock surface to get the algae, some of them collect the organic matter from the water column. So they are using different types of mouthpart, different species survive in the water current. Next one. Again to show the different morphology and mouthpart of different species. Next one. So next comes the Placoptra or stonefly. So these are not very species rich, but like about 21 species are reported from the Western Ghats. So they have much simpler life. So they have the larva and adult. And again, they are all predators. The mayflies being mostly feeding on algae and other things, but these Placopterans are mostly predators. And they also have different species or different morphology, larval stages, but adults, almost all of them look same. Okay, next one. Then comes very popular dragonflies and damselflies, what we call about 554 species are there in India, but people are still discovering new species from Western Ghats and Eastern Himalayas. Next one. So these are all ordinate larvae. Again, they have very diverse morphology. So all these paintings were made by my friend Hasko Nesman. He's a German, but he has visited India several times. So he actually paints live insects. So he collects them in the field, and when they are live, he just makes them in the field itself. He makes paintings of this. It's a huge painting. So he's a passionate painter. So he makes all these paintings. So he has given him his painting. So all these with simple watercolor things, he doesn't use in complicated, he uses simple watercolor and uses all these paintings. So just to show you how diverse morphologically. So they are very, very interesting because the larvae is aquatic and completely aquatic, and they have like these are all damselfly larvae. So on the tail you can see different types of lamellae. They are called only in Zygoptera, only damselflies you can see this lamellae, and they are simultaneously excretory and respiratory structures. So they have the shape and size of these are very, very important for identifying them. Next one, please. So these are dragonfly larvae. Okay, so these are dragonfly larvae. Again, you can see the uh, different morphology of different groups are there. And what they have is a very interesting way of going under the water, what is called jet propulsion. So they have, they can move, they don't swim with their legs or anything, they have what they use jet propulsion. So they, in the rectal part, they use water and they just push the water in high velocity, so they move forward. So they use very interesting mechanism. Next one, please. So dragonflies are very, very important in ecosystem because they are very good indicators of wetland ecosystem health, and it's like bird watching or butterfly watching. People can easily identify most of the common species. So people have taken it at a large scale to document the dragonfly diversity globally. So this is one of the very well studied insects. So there is a red list assessment. There are maps of dragonflies available and field dates are available. Next one. And if you look at the evolution of dragonflies in India, you can see that there are different groups of dragonflies for something called, some of the species are very, very ancient that has come from the Gondwana itself. Okay, some of the species that is found in Gondwana itself, there are there. Then once the Indian subcontinent met with Eurasia, so species from Southeast Asia or Eurasia or Africa also migrated into India. So Indian dragonfly, if you look at, you have combination of all these species. Next one, please. So see, these are some of these Gondwanian relics like the Draconostricta carmacheri found, or Protostricta, several species of Protostricta are found. So these are some of these species found in forest ecosystems. Next one. Or you have like, these are all exclusively found in Western Ghats, rainforest systems. These are all very ancient. The closest relatives you can see in South Africa and America, Southern America and Brazil, and that is why we think that these are all ancient lineages. Next one. Like these are another species like Gondwanian lineage, Saffronata. Next one, please. Or like there are several species that is migrated from the Africa, including Madagascar, like some species of gomphits and legulids. Next one. Like some species are come from Orient also, like from the Southeast Asia. Like for example, this is Leviothemis. This is a dragonfly found again Southeast Asia. Next one. Or some of them are from the Palearctic north. This you can see them in high altitude in Nilgiris and Animalites. And relatives again you can see in the Himalayas. So these are all high altitude species, and several of these are found in the Palearctic, especially in the European countries. Next one. And like there are some interesting aspects. Something like we see the color. We see the color with three color, no? Like RGB, red, green, blue. Like all our color resolution is based on three options. Protein, they call options. Options are the proteins which use in our eyes to see the color. So groups like dragonflies, they have something like 15 to 30 options to see the color. So they see much more vividly. The color resolution of their eyes are much more, but their spatial resolution is less, but they can see much more higher color than the what we are seeing. Similarly, butterflies also can see more color, so they can see in infrared, they can see ultraviolet, but we cannot see in infrared or ultraviolet. But these species groups like dragonflies can see in all these color. And like the birds, they have very clear sexual dimorphism. So males are very brightly colored and very aggressive, and females are less brightly colored. Understand? And territoriality. So territoriality is that like many higher groups show, like for example, mammals, birds, they have very clear territory. So here also male aggressively guard their territory. So it may be a patch of wetland or a part of the wetland or a rock. You can see this behavior in the field. So they aggressively guard their territoriality. Or they have very interesting mating behavior, what it is called as they have secondary genitalia. Okay, so most of the animals have only one genitalia. So males of dragonflies and damselflies, they have two genitalia. So one is to produce the sperm and another is to transfer the sperm. So sperm is produced like most of the insects at the end of the abdomen, 10th segment of the abdomen. They have gonads and they produce sperm. So before mating, they will transfer it into a secondary genitalia and the second abdominal segment. So the sperm is being transferred there, and this has very interesting evolved, very interesting morphological features. Okay, so the morphological features like they have like brushes to remove the sperm of which is already inseminated by another male in a female. Okay, so the very fierce sexual competition, what it called sexual selection. This is a lot of evolutionary studies have been done on some species of damselflies to look at how the secondary genitalia has evolved different, like they have brush-like structures, they have harpoon-like structures, essentially to remove the sperm which is already there in the female. Okay, next one. So this egg laying. So egg laying is a very different dragonfly species. They some of them lay eggs in the dead wood. Okay, once the mating is over, this one. Or some of them live directly in the water. Some of them lay egg in the vegetation like root. Okay, so one slide I missed. So during egg laying is one of the very vulnerable period of the female. So that is the time where another male will come and capture the female. So they have something called mate guarding. So during the egg laying period, the other male will come and guard this female so that the other males don't take away the female. So there is something called mate guarding. Some of them have contact guarding, so they will keep the female in contact, or some of them will be hovering around the female which is laying egg. Okay, next one, please. So like all the other organisms, they also have parasites. So some of these red small globe-like thing what you are seeing are aquatic mites. So they get parasitized by the female when they come for egg laying or when they are emerging. These mites will parasitize the dragonflies. Not just I'm just showing dragonflies, but all other aquatic insects also get these parasites. Next one. So the predation. The spiders are one of the common predators, especially living on water. Next one. And they have other interesting things. Like some seasons you might have seen like large number of dragonflies appearing, especially during October, November in Chennai. So these are all called, one only single species called Pandalam flavescens. So they have global distribution. These dragonflies, especially these species, have a global distribution, circumtropical. So they move with the monsoon wind. Okay, so this is different from the bird migration in the sense that bird migration is the same individual that is moving, going up and down. Okay, but these are different populations. And these are all passive migrants. Like bird migration is an active migration. So the same individual go to a breeding habitat or a breeding area and a feeding ground. But these are all, they move with the monsoon wind. So monsoon, there is something called intertropical convergence on easterly trade winds, what we call. So they move with the trade winds. When the monsoon comes, they move up in the Indian subcontinent. When they retreat, when the monsoon is retreating during October, November, they come down. So in the Chennai, you can see mostly in trade during October, November, when their trade wind is retreating, you can see huge population. And these have a very short life cycle. So in the 50 days, they will lay egg, a larva will develop and adult will emerge. So wherever rain is, the small water collection of rain pools are there, they breed it. Very, even roadside, of course, they breed. And sometimes you can see them, they try laying egg on the bonnets of the car, on the car tops or the glass, they will try to lay egg. Because they get reflect, they think that they are water, so they get reflections and they try to lay eggs. But these dragonflies are very ubiquitous and they travel. And studies have shown that they reach even up to the Horn of Africa, like this Somalia coast they reach by trading. So there are some studies where people have shown that not marked indicators, but by timing and by observations, people have recorded that they reached the Horn of Africa. But these are all even the remotest island, you can see this dragon. This one. Then comes very common aquatic bugs. This is what people usually see. These are all very common aquatic bugs. You can see in all types of water, including the paddy fields. You can see them. They are all predators. Like unlike terrestrial bugs, several of them are phytophagous. All the aquatic bugs are predators. Next one. These are some common families like Geridae, Viridae, Hydrometridae, everyday. You can see them in all the ponds. You can see all these species. Next one. These are all very common, like Belostoma. All these are like about 13 families are there, and all of them are there, mostly in ponds. Some of them are restricted to streams, but most of these are found in ponds. Next one. So these are some common species, or all of them are common species found throughout India, like Ranatra, Lacotryphus. So you can see them that they have the siphons, especially this is to take the water from the, to take oxygen from the atmosphere. So they put out these siphons above the water surface and they take oxygen. But these jerrys, they live in the water surface. They use the surface tension to live, and they don't they directly acquire water, oxygen, next one. And some of them have interesting behavior. This is Diplonicus annulatus, very common. This is a parental care behavior. So males carry the eggs. So female lay egg on the back of the males, and the male will be carrying eggs till they hatch. So the males will be taking care of the offsprings. Next one. Then comes the aquatic beetles. Okay, so aquatic beetles are also very diverse. And like these are larval stages. Most of them are predators, and some of them have very flat, round shape, withstand water current, and they have adaptations. Like for example, these whirligig beetles. So you can see them in the water surface. People are like, and like unlike most of the insects, they have two pair of eyes. Okay, one is below the head, this one, and one is above the head. So simultaneously, they can see above and below the water surface. Okay, so they get information from two systems, entirely different information. And if you see the body, it's very boat-like, and it is very streamlined, boat-like and streamlined. So they have ease to resistance to the water surface, smooth body, so that there is no air, easy to swim. Next one. And they are very voracious predators, many of these aquatic insects. So if you handle them, you can get a nice bite also. So some of them can even capture frogs, small frogs. And these are, you can see them in almost all ponds, some of them even giving wells. Okay, very clear one. They do. Next one. Then this is the eye I was taking, like simultaneously they can see above the water and below the water. And there are some nice neurological studies on how these beetles, okay, now these beetles are processing this information simultaneously from above the water and below the water. There are some nice behavioral studies also now people have carried out. Next one. This is just to show you how the larva of a one group Cephinidae is called water penguin. So if you look streams, they are found and they are very flat and smooth. They are attached to rocks like a sheet of paper. Essentially, design is to prevent to have least resistance to water current. Next one. So these are some of these aquatic beetles which are found just to show you the diversity of their morphology. Next one. Then comes the diphtheria. Okay, so India about 1,600 species of diphtheria are there. Some of them are very like very beautiful to look at. Let's say like this tabanid eye. These are again tabanids, very beautiful to look at, but they transmit many diseases. Next one, blood sucking, and like some chironomics, very ubiquitous and very common. And sometimes you can see newspaper that is full of mosquito swarms, but actually they are not mosquitoes, they are chironomics, especially in the polluted water. If you see the beach, like you can see several of them sitting on the water surface, they are all chironomics, mostly found in polluted water. And the live feed for fishes, sometimes you can like bloodworms, what we call the chironomic larva or oligochaetes, they sell. Next one. And two, like Symposium is one aquatic insect and mosquitoes. So sorry for the spelling mistake, it should be Aedes. So Symposium, black fly. So Symposium, we have several species, like not it is there in Western Ghats also. There are several species are there, and Eastern Himalaya also. But here it is not a big problem. But if you go to Eastern Himalaya, especially in monsoon, they call it as damdu. Okay, so you cannot go to field. You cannot go to field because so many sites very small, and they bite very nastily. Okay, you cannot do field work. So they get a severe allergy also. But it's a very serious problem, especially to soldiers who are there in the field. So they use repellents to cover their body, or they use fine mesh to cover their body. And it is a very small, smaller than mosquito, very small, this one. And luckily, they don't transmit any disease in India. But in Africa, they transmit a very disease called river blindness, onchocerciasis. So it is a nematode worm. So that nematode worm will eventually enter into your eye and make you blind forever. So it's a very nasty disease in African countries. But luckily, there is no report of onchocerciasis in India. But in Africa, it is a very serious public health problem. Next one. These are all diphtheria larvae. So you can see this is something called as Pylorus or Blephraceratidae is a midge, a non-biting midge in the streams. You can see small round things. No? These are suckers. Suckers to like vacuum suckers, they attach to the rocks. Okay, rocks and other smooth surfaces. Then Symposium larva, the black fly larva. So they have silk. They use fine silk thread to attach to their rocks. So then you have chironomus. These are again already told you about chironomus. These are all freshwater, especially in polluted water, you get several species. So these are all different. Next one. So these are some like most common, like non-biting leeches, chironomic, very diverse. More than 7,000 species are there globally, except in even in Antarctica, you have some species of chironomics. Next one. Then you have tipulids, again highly diverse. Crane flies. In India itself, we have large number of species. Next one. Then you have ceratopogonic, biting midges, okay. So these are all, again, they transmit disease, especially in livestock or blue tongue virus, especially in sheep and goat. In Tamil Nadu also you can get sporadic outbreak of this blue tongue virus, again transmitted by the ceratopogonic biting midges. Especially in marshlands, you get this small midges. So then you have aquatic hymenopterans, very small one, tiny one. They are parasitoids of other aquatic insects, so they can swim underwater and they can find the eggs of other aquatic insects like aquatic bugs or dragonfly eggs, and they lay their egg there. So parasitoids are insects which feed on other insects. Okay, so you can imagine that they're very tiny. You can see that very 1 mm, 2 mm size of aquatic insects. Yes, next one, please. Then there are some small groups called alder flies. These are all rare aquatic insects, mostly found in pristine streams in Western Ghats or Himalaya. Next one. So this is the larva of alder megaloptera, alder flies from Arunachal Pradesh. So they are also predators. Next one. Or lacewings, neuropterans. So most of the neuropterans are not aquatic, but there are some groups that is living in the freshwater sponges. The larvae living, there is one family that lives in the freshwater sponges. So even I have not seen this. This is from my friend. I have not seen this aquatic neuropteran, but there are some species. Next one. Then there are aquatic and semi-aquatic cockroaches. Okay, so these are not the terrestrial cockroaches. They live in decomposing organic matter in the wetland ecosystem. So there are some species, but not much is known about them. We get them in the field. Next one. Then you have aquatic orthopterans that again live in water circle, near to water. See when the water land interface in the rocks, the vegetation, and they have adaptations to survive in the wetland ecosystem. They are closely associated with wetland ecosystem. Next one. Then comes the another diverse group called trichopterans. Okay, they are closely associated with Lepidoptera, that is butterflies and moths, because this is one group that also produces silk. Okay, so silk production is very few, only few groups of insects produce silk. So Trichoptera is one group that produces silk, and they are very interesting. Next one, please. Because they use silk to make cases, what we call as larval cases. So each of the Lepidoptera, this Trichoptera produces different kind of, they use sand, they use wood, they use leaf to make this case, and they live inside that one. Next one, please. So this is one larval case of one Trichoptera in water. So they use like a basket. They make a silk basket to trap their food. Okay, next one. Then this is another Trichoptera larva. They use small pebbles and rocks to make the case. It has two purposes. One is to have a shelter, and another is to have weight, so that they don't get carried away by the water, ballast. Okay, next one. So this is one box kind of case made by with leaf, small bits of leaf they are used. Next one, Lepidostomatidae. These are tiny grains, sand grains. They use tiny sand grains to use. Next one. So there are some species that use just two leaves, like some of these tailor birds. They use just two leaves and they live inside this one. This is very common in Western Ghats streams. You see where the leaf correction is, leaf litter is there, you can see them. Next one. Like these are different types of cases this piece. Trichopterans make. Next one. And if you see what are the determinants of aquatic insect diversity in an area, is that many factors work together. Like for example, the bioclimatic of that area or the habitat heterogeneity, what kind of habitat you get. So these form the biotic niches. Okay. Then you have their geology, their that kind of what is the geological history, biogeographic history, or what is the kind of ambient energy it has. So all of these to act together to create a habitat or to determine what are the aquatic insect diversity found in an area. So geological history or the biological history of that area is also very important to know what kind of aquatic insects are found in that area. Next one. So moving to the conservation aspects. Next one. So if you look at the global biodiversity crisis, so from 1970s, like there is something called Living Planet Index that is published every periodically. So there is a continuous decline of living species, of wild species globally from 1970s. That's the index here. But even this is continuously declining. But if you look at the freshwater ecosystem, decline is very, very drastic when compared to terrestrial or the marine ecosystem. Next slide, please. So, and there are predictions, okay, let's the predictions in the next 100 years. If we are not taken any serious actions now, the diversity what we are having is definitely going to reduce in next 100 years. By 2100, when most of us may not be there, but still we will be giving a denuded planet to the next generations to come. So we will be the next generation may not be inheriting a richer planet. They will be impoverished planet. They will be inheriting. So historically, the population like now, most of them like the recently, I think 2-3 days back, there was a publication where it showed that the most of the mammalian biomass what we are having is domesticated biomass. Most of the mammalian biomass globally has declined in last 100 years, while the biomass has drastically declined. And what the biomass what we have is mostly domesticated mammalian biomass. So globally, it is a problem, and we are to be blamed. Next one. And people, it is not that we don't know the reason. People have studied in depth. So this is from IPBS report. And what is happening is that the resource consumption, what we are doing, the resource consumption, global resource consumption, what we are doing is very unsustainable. People are consuming more and more resources than what is being produced. Natural resources are produced, and due to globalization, like you are driving natural resource exploitation in another part of the globe. It's not that you're immediately, like the way you are consuming your resource, natural resource, is actually depleting wild resources in some other parts. So because of globalization, this transboundary resource consumption is also driving the biodiversity loss. And this has reduced the ecosystem service, it has reduced ecosystem services in all aspects, either provisioning or regulating services, like there is a decline of pollinators, global decline of pollinators, there is a decline of fisheries sector. So even each sector, if you see, there is a decline of natural resources and also the services the ecosystems provide. And the result of that is started showing in various ways. You can say unpredictable rainfall, unpredictable flood, or even severe environmental events are happening. Also, crashing population of several wild species, or even booming of population of several wild species. Next one. And if you look at aquatic insects alone, there is a global insect decline. So that is very well acknowledged and very well studied. And there is large land use changes like agricultural intensification or deforestation or climate change aspects or pollution, insecticide, pesticide. Like all these are driving decline of insect population globally. And these are all due to this, there are other aspects also, like for example, co-extinction. So several species are interconnected. So one species is extinct, the associated species also is likely to go extinct. And there is also invasive alien species that is again a part of the globalization which is happening. Not just insects, but also plant alien species are also causing this decline of insects. Next one. And this is a much detailed graphics of the same thing, where people have studied the pollution, urbanization, introduced species, or deforestation, or droughts. These are all, some of them are directly human induced, like the graphics below like pollution, urbanization, or introduced species. All these are human induced aspects, but some of them are like, for example, fire or storm intensity, although global warming. These are larger issues which has a human contribution. So, but these are can be termed as natural, but they also have human image. Next one. And people have studied, like from well-studied groups. So aquatic insects, especially autonates. Okay, there is several species of declining population. So they are compared with beetles or orthopterans. So aquatic insects like dragonflies also have decrease in last 40 years. Several species are gone. Next one. So in Indian scenario, like why aquatic insects are declining is that there are several aspects. One is that the river valley projects, dam and hydroelectric projects have changed the hydrology of several of these our wetlands. Next one. Dried up, like many river valley projects, what they do is that there is something called interbasin transfer of the water. So they dam one valley and the entire water is transported to another valley. Okay, so the downstream is, this is from Eastern Himalaya. So like this entire river course down here is dried up. Okay, so permanently dried up. So this water is not released here. It is released, it is taken through tunnels to some other land. Okay, so the entire fauna and flora of this entire downstream is destroyed. Next one. Or you have this unscientific infrastructure development, especially in remote parts of India, where several of these like breaking down of hills or streams. Next one. Like you can see this drastic destruction of hill slopes and streams. Next one. They dump the construction waste into streams and cause periodic flooding or the change in the river courses. Next one. And you have this very interesting, not very long lasting problem called invasive alien species. So we also have introduced several species of invasive alien into our ecosystem. Knowingly or unknowingly, we have introduced. Next one. Like the tilapia or African catfish is a classic example where people it is causing havoc in wetlands, colonized almost all wetlands in India. Next one. Or even invasive species like this Mykinia macaranda, so that has causing changes in the stream morphology and this one. Next one. Like for example, we have introduced like most of the wetlands in India have 7 species of plants, invasive plants, and about 40 species of fishes that is introduced. Sure, no problem, but done in this. Okay. Next one, please. So this urbanization in hill areas. Next one. Or intensive plantations. Or this mining. All these are, this is again mining in Western Ghats and causing severe damage or garbage disposal. This is especially a problem in hill tourism. Next one. Again, garbage disposal. Next one. Oh, okay. So this, there are several, like not much is not about impact of climate change on aquatic insects, but there are some studies in Europe and where people have shown that a range of several species is increasing. Several African species have started colonizing into Europe. Okay, so there is a northern latitude shift of about 2 degrees to about several species like started invading to Europe. So actually the climate change is favoring some species for their expansion. But India, there is not much studies because no not much data is available for fast distribution. Next one. But predicted that there are several species will increase their disease. Transmitting vectors will increase their presence in several places. Like that will be a very good clue to that species expansion. No problem. I'm done with that. So that was